This is the Good Karma Sportfishing Podcast, and I'm your host, Captain Ryan Van Fleet. Thanks for tuning in. Okay, so in my last episode, I talked a little bit about social media challenges. So I'm going to kind of roll that over into this podcast today in another angle here. And I was going to start doing some interviews and bringing some people on the show, but I'm going to back off on that because I want to make sure that they're the right fit for me and my podcast, and meaning that it's a Good Karma Sportfishing Podcast. I've got my own style, just like I got my own style of fishing, so I don't follow the other guy. So I just do things up my way, and I'm very happy about that. And I often get asked why I do that because, it's as a small business owner and a fisherman, it's always good to be independent. So you never want to rely on somebody to make money because it could just turn sour. I work out of Tavernier Creek Marina. I get very little walk-on business there. I think I get maybe one or two clients a year. So I would say about 80% to 90% of my clients are now regular clients. When I say regular clients, they either fish with me monthly, bi-monthly, or yearly, or some of them fish every other year. But I just had a client that came back recently. He hasn't fished with me in 2 years. And it's been 2 years. So his name is John. He's he got cancer. I mean, that kind of stuff happens. You don't think about it as a fishing guide, but the older your clients get, some people get sick. Well, John got sick, and John was a regular client. And John took a year and a half off. He usually fishes with me in the fall. He usually fishes with me once or twice, actually 3 to 4 times sometimes through December. And then John left. So John went through chemo and remission and all that good stuff. But what's great about John is that he knows that he knew that when Hurricane Dorian hit, that my business was going to everybody down here was going to get shut down. So what John did, he called me up. He says, "I'm ready to go fishing, Ryan." So John likes to support my business when he knows that the business is tough. He did it with Irma, and he booked trips ahead of time. He bought gift certificates, and I had other clients that did the same, and they booked with me while everybody else that didn't have regular clients or that were marina people that relied on walk-on traffic were there was nobody there. But I had regular people in South Florida, Broward County and Miami guys that came out and booked with me. And I am so blessed that they did because they kept money in my pockets and they paid my bills. And I was able to run my business successfully through Irma. Well, not many did. And I'm very blessed and very fortunate and John was there again at Dorian. He was out of nowhere. He's like, "I'm ready to go fishing." Thought about it for a minute. And I was like, wow. So anyway, I took John fishing, and John always seems to have a great day. I don't know. I think we had when he fished with me when Irma was here, it was kind of the weather. It wasn't great, but we caught a few, but nothing spectacular. I mean, I fished with John where he's had multiple limits of wahoo, and we're done in 2 hours, and we're already back at the dock. So, and that's true. He's like, I can show you the pictures. So John wanted to go wahoo fishing after Dorian, and I told him, so I went out and I pre-fished before he was there, and I said, "Dude, the water is horrible. There's just no fish in close. It's just not worth it going and dragging, and the water is so warm down here right now. It's just not wahoo time. If you catch one good, I mean, that's awesome. But I believe in going wahoo fishing when I feel it's right and I didn't feel it was right. So I ran John offshore, and it's the first time I ever took John offshore, and he's been fishing with me for a few years. Like I said, he fished with me like a few years, and then when he got sick, and then he had to take some time off. But so this was our first trip offshore, and it was Saturday. Yeah, last Saturday. It was there were so many boats. Everybody was just like had cabin fever from being stuck inside, from Dorian up in the East Coast, and people just wanted to get some stress relief, and I don't blame them. So there was a lot of people out there, and the fishing was the current was really light, so it was only like a 2-knot current, 2.5-knot current offshore. So when I find that there's a 2.5-knot current offshore, it's like not the greatest because there's just not a lot of fish pushing, but the current was picking up late in the day, but that's another podcast. So anyway, so I found a piece of debris in the morning, and so did another like 10 boats, and I picked just a couple dolphin off there, and then I just decided to take a run way offshore, which I don't do that often, but I'm like, I got to go see if I can get John some nice fish, and then because he wants to be home early. So I kind of had a feeling I knew where I could just go and get a few more dolphin really quick. There was no debris in the area, but I kind of knew I knew the pattern where the fish were swimming and what time that they were going to jump up. And we got out there just in time, and right after I put a dolphin in the boat, I put the lines back up, and we raised 2 big blue marlins at the same time. And one ate the left rigger, and we missed it. And then he would drop back, and he ate the long bait, and he missed it. And then another one came in from just out of the blue, and this thing was a monster. And I hit him, and I hooked him on 30-pound line, 40-pound Yozuri leader, fluorocarbon leader, and a big Mustad J hook. Over a rigged ballyhoo, a Wild Willie's Sea Witch. And I think on that one, he ate the Wild Willie's blue over white Sea Witch. So you can see the pictures. I talk about that one all the time. But, okay, so this is where it gets a little intense. So John is recovering from cancer. This is his first fishing trip offshore on my boat where you're actually fishing. He had fished with another guide in July because I was on vacation. But and they didn't catch anything because the dolphin fishing was kind of sketchy. They caught some dolphin, but they were small. So as they were in early July, because the migrations are way off. So with the ocean temperatures and whatever is going on out there. So anyway, so we hooked the marlin on and the reel is a small Talica 20. I've got 40 pounds of drag, and I maxed it out on the fish. And Momoy diamond line, some badass stuff. And John fought the fish. I got a little video. John fought the fish for approximately 20 minutes before he was ready. He just called it quits. He just couldn't do it physically. So do you blame it? It's 100-degree heat, and the guy is like, just like surprised the guy is like held up that long. I mean, he was like beat up after 20 minutes. I said, just take a break. I'll take the fish. And for the next 4.5 hours, I fought the fish one-handed, drove the boat, fought the fish one-handed, drove the boat. And I think I plowed through about every water in my cooler. No fighting belt. And it was brutal. I looked at the Atlas track, so as I can pull up my Atlas track and see how far the fish dragged me. The fish dragged me over 20 miles, and I ended up up past close to Ocean Reef, and I caught the fish off pickles. So just think about, the calculation was over 20 miles, and I got the fish up twice. The first time I couldn't get to the leader. He came up and he did big, long circles around the boat like he was stalking the boat. It was the freakiest thing. So he had me running all over the center console. Thank God for the Seakeeper. So, I mean, that would have been a brutal fight without a Seakeeper with that boat rocking back and forth. And the fish was diving underneath the boat, and I was like, I had gloves on. I did everything I could to hold on to that reel, guys. It was a monster. So I did get the fish up. at the end of it was about 4 hours. I got the fish back up, and I thought I was going to be able to bring him to the boat, and I did get the leader touch on him this time, and he seen the boat or seen me or something, but the fish went ballistic again, and he dove and he dumped it all back down. He took another 400 feet of line again, and then that was it. After I got the touch, the fish did the same thing. He came up to the surface and he started doing big, wide circles around the boat. And then he lunged at the engine, and I was like, oh, this is just brutal. So all this time, guys, I only had like 2 fish in the box. I'm sorry, 2 fish. 2 dolphin that were, about 26, 27 inches. And we ended up getting the leader touch. So it was an all fish release, so we did catch the fish. And I was like, I looked at the clock, man, and it was like 3:30. We hooked the fish at 9, I think it was. And 9:30 or something. I looked at my clock, and it was like 3:30, and I was like, we are way out there, and I'm like, we got to start going home. And John was like, hey, we got enough fish, and it's enough for me for dinner. And I was like, yeah, I want you to catch more fish, bro. I go, I want to catch more dolphin for you. So, but John's spent. He's really tired. I go, John, just hold it together for me, brother. I'm going to, if I see him, I'm going to keep my eyes peeled. So on the way in, I found another piece of debris. I did a quick cast, and we ended up dropping 2 cows, lost them both. I think it was just a lot with those fish, we just pulled guys, to be honest with you, man, we just wiped out tired. I mean, 5 hours in the brutal heat on a 23-foot center console with a short stand-up rod. It's this with no fighting belt, 30 pound. I don't know how the hell I did it, but I did. How I got that fish up. So everything I fight after now is like it's a piece of cake. I'm like 50-pound wahoo, bring it on. I'm like I can reel that thing in with a pinky. So it's like I think that's what I laughed about so hard last night. I saw these guys dragging these fish in with these big reels, and I'm like, oh man. This is too crazy. But anyways, I don't want to sound like a snarky dude or anything, but I just have to laugh. So on the way in, I was talking to John. I was just wiped out. I was tired. I was kind of irritable, which I'm only human. And I wanted to catch more fish for John. I really did. So my eyes were burning. I was still looking on the way in. I was like, and then John's like ready to go home. I was like, no, if I see something, we're going to fish it. No, we got enough. I was like, no, we're going to see something. I'm going to fish it. I had everything ready. I still had a live well full of pilchards. And then sure enough, guys, on the way in, I found a couple red buoys floating together. I'm like, there's probably like more derelict pots. And I pull up on them in 750 feet, and they're loaded with dolphin. Loaded. And I threw out some pilchards, and that was it. I was done. I threw out 4 lines, caught 4 fish, got all 4 in, and then we threw back out. So that put me at 6. And then I threw out another 4. And anyway, so I got my limit of fish, and in a matter of 40 minutes, mind you, no mate at all. All my stuff is pre-rigged and ready, and the fish come in quick, and they go into the garbage can, and they go into the fish bag, and they're done. So, and John looked at me, he's like, "What the hell just happened?" And I was like, "Yeah, there's your fish, brother." So we topped it off. We got his fresh seafood that he wanted because he's all about eating fresh fish, and he was so happy. And we went home. So I'm cleaning When I got home, when I got back to the dock, I was extremely exhausted, and it was the first time I think I ever literally just passed out because I just couldn't take it anymore. So I just hit a wall, I guess you could say, and I had to actually sit down and take a break, which I never do. So that was my Saturday, and I was thinking it was just all these different things, and John kept telling me he wanted to this is kind of weird, but John's all my clients. Everybody's got their own own thing. John's like, oh, I really wish I could eat that fish's heart. I was like, what? So I can gain strength. I go, dude, you've been watching way too many movies, man. There's just too much stuff out there on Instagram with like people like eating the tuna's heart to gain strength and the deer and stuff on YouTube. He says he watches YouTube and watches those guys on, he watches Meat Eater, which I do like that guy, man. He's always got he does some good stuff on that show about eating things, hearts and stuff, and gaining strength from the fish. It's like that Ted Nugent stuff. God, so he started saying that. He goes, and at one point during the fight of Marlin, and I think he was just joking. He said, should I get the gaff? And I was like, no, what the hell? I was like, dude, we are not going to gaff this fish. I go, besides, I started laughing. And because I've been fishing with John for a long time, I can like, when I have somebody that's been fishing with me a long time, I can like really give it back to him. I was like, dude, you've only fought the fish for like 20 minutes. Do you think that you can lift a 450-pound fish over the side of my boat? And I was like, it's going to be like, we're going to have to water ski that fish back in with and put him on a surfboard. We're going to have to drag him back. I go, no, but we're not going to kill a marlin. I go, I talk about bad juju. So my whole point behind telling you guys that story is that I look at my listeners like loyal clients. If you're coming back every week to listen to my podcast, I really appreciate it. And my commitment will be to give you good fishing tips each week. So now there are some weeks that I won't be able to provide you with some really good insider stuff, but I want to do that. So I make, sometimes I feel bad if I can't give you guys what I think that you guys want, but then again, I have to look at it realistically. And it's like I have to kind of spend a lot of time on that to kind of put it together to where it makes sense. So what I really encourage my listeners that are listening each week to do is to email me. And I am starting to put together the list. I got an email from a really good client, or I call you guys clients. You guys are listeners. See, so that's asking me how I find dolphin on days with there's no weed lines and without running and gunning. I do have a system for that. I don't like to run and gun. So in fact, I put it into play. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that now before I sign off, is you got to figure out where the dolphin are swimming. And just because you don't see weeds or debris doesn't mean the dolphin are there. And you have to learn how to read the water, which is something that I need to take some visual pictures of for you guys out there so you see what I'm looking at. So I'm in the process of stepping up some stuff so I can get some good visual aids that I can, put on my show notes so you guys can look back to, better than the magazine stuff that you see. So if it's going to be some really good stuff I want to put together for you guys like I said, you're loyal listeners, and I want you guys to have the best that I can give you. And in return, all I ask is that you share the podcast with others. Share with a fishing club, and let me know that you shared it. I really appreciate that. Send me an email. Ask me to do some podcasts on certain subjects. I've got Carl that listens. He's a good guy. He's asked me to do it how I pull a small dredge, or how I pull teasers. And in fact, I pulled a small teaser to raise the blue marlin, and I'll show you my teaser that I've been using for years. It's the only teaser that I use, and it works effectively. And I use a dredge teaser when I sailfish, when the conditions are right, and I have some clients that are very active that can help. So I do things on my own, so I have to be very strategic on how I fish, how many lines I can run. So, but I do love to run teasers. I'm going to talk about that in the future. So I have another listener that asked me to do some stuff on how I fish the moon. So my advice with the moon right now is don't be fooled with wahoo on the 3-day thing, 3 days before the full moon. I'm seeing these fish start to bite 7 days before the full moon if the conditions are right. I'm going to teach you guys what the perfect wahoo storm is. I think I mentioned in an earlier podcast that I'm going to be talking a little bit more about wahoo the closer we get to the season. I'm going to do that because I know that there's a lot of wahoo fanatics out there. I'm not as wahoo fanatic as I used to be because it's just another. Because I have other fish I have to catch. I don't have the luxury of just fishing for one fish. So I'm not as fanatical about wahoo as I used to be in my younger age. So there's lots of other fish. I really do enjoy catching and releasing sailfish. And I love blackfin tuna. I really do. It's one of my favorite fish to catch. But I know a lot about wahoo, and I want to teach people how to catch them. And when you have success using my tactics, give me a shout out. I would appreciate that. Give me a shout out on your Instagram page. So consider it good karma when you do that. And then watch what happens. Look how many more fish you're going to catch. And you think I'm kidding? I'm not kidding. So, but I think that's really all I got today. It was kind of a mishmash stuff. I guess the main theme is here. I really appreciate you guys listening and sharing my podcast. But I've got to go because I'm hungry, and oh my gosh. So one last thing is that I started watching WWF wrestling again, and it's getting better. I really like, you guys, I love wrestling, man. And I saw Ric Flair's daughter, Charlotte Flair. She is a badass wrestler. I think she can put most of these guys to shame that are wrestling now. And I saw Stone Cold Steve Austin come back last night on Raw. And I see that there's this AEW wrestling now, and Chris Jericho is like the champion. And he's got this saying about, how about a little bit of bubbly? I was like, dude. Anyways, I am a wrestling fan. I've always been a wrestling fan. I threw a pencil at Andre the Giant when I was a kid because I thought he was a bad guy, and he turned around. I thought he was gonna just come after me, and when I was a little kid, I'm not kidding you, I threw a little pencil at him because he wouldn't give me an autograph. And I remember him walking out of the arena when he was with the good guys, and I thought I thought it was all real. So I waited outside and I threw a pencil at him because he wouldn't stop and give me an autograph. And I was like, why the hell did I do that? So, true story. And I am a Star Wars fan. So, yep, I am. And I'm not afraid to admit it. So you'll often hear me refer to my Adrenaline custom rods, the ones that I have in pretty colors, like a green, and I've got a green one, and I've got a pink one. So, and I also, I refer to those rods as lightsabers. Anything that has color on them, I call lightsabers. So I was like, grab that lightsaber. But that's all I got. I appreciate you guys tuning in, and I'll have some more good stuff for you next week. Follow me on Instagram at Good Karma Sportfishing _FL_keys. And check out my website, goodkarmasportfishing.com. I'll have a fishing report up there each week. That's all I got. You guys take care and have a good one. And remember, anytime you're fishing, it's all good.